taking a walk. Hey, David, welcome to Taking a Walk. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Buzz. Good to be here with you.
So, since the podcast is called Taking a Walk, if you could take a walk with someone, living or dead, they don't have to be involved with music, but they could be. Who would it be, and where would you like to take a walk with them?
Oh, gosh. Well, since I released Freedom, my cover of Freedom recently, it would be fun to take a walk with George Michael and maybe just go around. Man, where could we walk? Probably just a walk around like Echo Park or something would be nice. Somewhere chill, but kind of close to where the action is. See what things we could relate with on as people who are performers and had to come out in front of our audience, with our sexuality and our queer journeys.
Sure. Yeah. That'd be an amazing walk for sure. How about me?
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's a good one. I'm gonna take the first stab that comes into my head and think about a walk in New York City with John Lennon.
Ooh, wow.
He was so ingrained in New York. Never had the opportunity, and I would just love to hear what he's thinking about the way things are in today's times.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. Imagine the music he would have released.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I think he would have been still doing amazing things, and I think he wouldn't keep his opinions to himself.
Right. Do you feel like there's an equivalent of that today?
Well, I think, I mean, meaning a person such as John.
Yeah, like a musician with like human activists in their music.
I think there are, but I think a lot of people aren't brave enough. They're sort of holding back right now. I mean, what you're doing is incredibly brave, and I think there's a lot of people who are sort of just, you know, just holding back right now, don't you think?
It's kind of like a holding your breath kind of a moment because you're not sure what will take power and take the lead with everything and influence what's okay to say and what's not okay to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's people whose opinions are, bubbling up, and I may not be as familiar with, but I think the activism time, when we think of it, was so critical through the '60s and the '70s, and activism needs to stay. We need it more than
Yeah.
ever.
I think Kendrick Lamar is kind of that. Like he's always going to have a message. So when he releases a song, I mean, his main message is like that people have been watching is his beef with Drake. But aside from that, like a lot of his other songs talk about preserving his culture, and I feel like he's definitely about like human rights activity. Um, that's just the one that I know everyone's. If he has something to say, people are going to tune in and listen to it because got a strong opinion, and it's not always the politically correct thing that he says, but I think that's what people want. They don't want everything to always be politically correct and proper, and sometimes you got to say things how you see them, even if you see them differently than how someone else may see it, which is why they get offended.
Yeah, and I think as we have this conversation, I promise you, both of us are going to come back to that, and we can because we're going to think of some people that come to our head, who need to be sort of, positively called out there. Um, Congratulations on freedom. When I think of the times, and I think of your, tribute to the song, done so brilliantly, and I
Thank you.
think of the importance of the times. Um, do you sort of, ruminate on that and think of it in today's times, not only as a tribute to George Michael's, but also what's going on in the world today?
Yeah, he wrote the song and it came out 35 years ago, and he came out at a time when it was, the HIV AIDS pandemonium was at about at its height at that time, and so many stigmas and misconceptions with the gay community and religion thinking like this is God's way of punishing them for being who they are and doing what they do. And to now be in a time where it's like, okay, people understand the science behind things. There's been medications like PrEP that prevent HIV and AIDS, like for the most part, 99% being gone and 100, completely manageable. And to be at a time where, at least for the time being, same-sex marriage is now legal. It was not a thing back when George Michael had come out. And so to see like in 35 years the progress that society has made for the LGBTQ plus community and making space for them, but how like we've made progress and then there's pushback. And it does make me wonder, okay, what is the pushback coming from? And I think a lot of it is just simply that people want, I think it's instinctual for them to want something to combat. They want to have a foe, an enemy to go against, and it's easier to target people who aren't like you. I mean, just like Kendrick Lamar's song, he has his big song is "Not Like Us," they not like us, and not that that song's related to what I'm talking about, but seeing how politics, it reminds me of Wicked. Have you seen the musical Wicked?
I haven't seen it, but obviously, know the story, right?
Oh my goodness, it is. Yeah, it's a great story, and I think it's oh, I guess I don't want to blow it for people who haven't seen it, especially since Act 2 hasn't come out, but basically how to get the people together. A lot of times people, in order to get that group of people together, you have to give them a common enemy to go against. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are misunderstood are targeted because like, well, they're different enough. Let's make them the villain so that I can control my group of people that I want to control. And I feel like, unfortunately, that happens in religious communities. They're used to feeling like Satan is their enemy, but it's like you can't see him. He's not around. So how do we put a visual to Satan? And so they pick people who are the most foreign to that community in that group. The least common denominator. Okay, most people are straight. We have families. Maybe most of them be Caucasian, or maybe if you're in another country, they say South America, most of you are Hispanic. So then the common enemy becomes anyone who's queer, you know, they're different. So we need to put a face to what we think Satan is. So we're going to choose this community and be like, okay, let's fight. And unfortunately, the LGBT community has been picked on time and time again. And now they are again, especially with the trans community. And I think it's just fear mongering because, to distract the people from the bigger issues, like people who have a lot of money and taking advantage of the rest of the population, taking more and more wealth, and while leaving the rest of the people struggling, to distract people from what's actually causing them the hardship. They try to point and like, look, don't let trans people go into the bathrooms. They might rape your women if it's a trans woman entering a women's bathroom. It's like that is not the issues. That's not happening. That's not the issue happening, and it's not the concern we should have. But I think we're just an easy target. It's easy to misunderstand the queer community, especially trans. So they get weaponized, and it sucks. So I think you have to be even more vocal, even more just yourself in a time when people don't want to see you. They're uncomfortable because they don't. So you have to expose them to say, hey, I'm not as scary as you thought I was. And even in my journey, I've had a lot of people from the Mormon community or the Christian community I grew up with saying, why don't you just keep it to yourself? Like, I don't care if you're like that, but I don't want to see it. And it's like, well, guess what? You have to, because you have to see it's not what you think it is. You think I'm trying to like have sex in front of you and your family. And it's like, no, I'm just openly be myself. So you see I'm not much different from you. But it's just interesting.
Well, incredibly astute and spot on everything you're saying. And can you describe what it was like finding your spirit, leaving the Mormon church.
Well, I feel like I was still in the Mormon church when I came out. And for me, like the experience coming out, I consider myself agnostic now, but at the time, what I understood and interpreted as the spirit and like the voice of God speaking to me, I just kind of consider it my higher self because so many people from that community who believe in God and this whole God identity according to society, it's like, well, God wouldn't tell you that. That's the devil. That's Satan appearing to you as an angel, just deceiving you. And it's like, how would who are you to tell me what my moments of peace, my moments of light are, my moments of feeling the great like love and that I have a purpose. Like who are you to tell me what that experience is and what God has told me? But it's like if that's what you call God, then you know what? I don't want to believe in that because it sounds like a very fearful, fear-based, hate-based, very judgmental and self-righteous approach to what this spiritual universal connection that we're all supposed to have. It's like it seems like you sure want to do a lot of cutting off for something that's supposed to be all encompassing, all loving, all knowing, all creating. And so for me, I'm like, hey, I don't want to, if that's what God is, then I'm not going to call this God because I don't want you to twist it. But, my experience was I was praying and this feeling of God said, you know what, David, stop asking me to change who you are because you're how I created you to be. And you keep trying to run away from what that is when there's no reason to. And a lot of well-meaning people out there may claim that this is what I think and this is what I say and that I as God think that this is wrong, but I'm the one who created this and there's beauty in it and I need you to see it. And when I started sharing that, I feel like a lot of people agreed, but I think the majority of religious people disagreed. And almost like they had an entitlement to know what the queer experience was when they are so unwilling to listen to what it is and what queer people go through. So I thought that was interesting that they thought they have all the answers when it's like, God is the only one who has all the answers. Just because you believe in God does not mean you have all the answers, and perhaps you should be open to learning more of what there is. For example, like what queer people are. Like one of my friends, Charlie Bird, he's Mormon, got married, was still going to church with his husband, trying to kind of change the expectations in the Mormon community about what it means to be gay. And his book is what helped me come to terms with my sexuality, being queer, because he said he's like because before that I'd never seen someone who was Mormon and willfully call themselves gay, because we were always discouraged to use that word to identify with gay to the point where there is one of the worldwide leaders of the church of the Mormon church, David A. Bednar. He was an apostle, and he said in a talk when people are asking him like, "What do you think about gay people in the church?" and his response was, "There are no gay people." And he's like, it is not a matter of like there's no gay people. He's like, they're only children of God. And while the intent may have been okay, like he's trying to say, regardless of if you're gay or straight, like we are all really children of God. At the same time, I think he was passively trying to disregard the fact that gay people, it's not just like a moment of their life. It is something that they experience their whole entire lifetime. And you're trying to take away from that and disregard that's their experience.
Finding your spirit, in my opinion, you tell me, as you ultimately made that decision to leave, the Mormon church, that was an awakening of sorts that really helped you find or further find your spirit of who you are.
Yeah, it was. learning to love myself, something that I thought I already knew, something I thought Mormonism already gave me a good grasp of. And it wasn't until leaving Mormonism that I finally understood what it meant to love yourself, because it was clear how much I hated myself once I was able to look back. And that even though I wasn't told it was self-hatred, it was. And you're almost like praised for hating yourself and thinking that you're like dirt and lower than dirt, and that you are unworthy and good for nothing, and that you need this religion to be something. They may not have phrased it that way, but that is what you end up feeling about yourself. I don't think they realize it perhaps necessarily, but I feel like in the end, all religion needs you to condition and kind of hack your mindset in order to have control and have you work in the way that they want you to. For them, I think they think it is, they really believe like this is what's going to help you be a good person. So I wouldn't say it's like with this evil scheme and plot in the end. I think they just, some things are misinformed, is especially with the queer community, and some interesting teachings that they teach about how, Caucasian people, most of them being like the tribe of Ephraim, were called of God. Like America was divinely called by God, and to have the Mormon church be restored by Joseph Smith and then be preached. Joseph Smith taught. He was the founder of the Mormon church. He went and taught everyone like the Native Americans and indigenous people of Americas are people who've been cursed, who need to be brought back to God and re-enlightened, which I think a lot of people from a few hundred years ago believed like that. My mom's from Honduras, so she's Central American, but it was just interesting to see how they thought, oh, like, Joseph Smith taught a lot of people that if you had dark skin, it was because it was cursed. It was cursed by God to show that white people are blessed and they're clean, whereas dark skinned people are, which is why black people weren't allowed to have full participation in the Mormon church until 1978. And so I just feel like those are a few examples how the Mormon church were misinformed, greatly misinformed. And most of the people following it, I don't think have evil intentions, but you have to take a look and say, like, you know what? Hey, a lot of these things aren't okay. And sometimes you're steered the wrong way, whether it's with the color, why someone's color of skin is different, or why someone's sexuality is different. The church does not have all the answers that it claims to have. And the church changes its mind and then forgets, oh, we've never said any of that. We changed our minds, or God changed his mind. So that's how it's framed a lot of times. Like, well, God changed his mind. He's now given us more, when it's like, I think sometimes you're just dragging your feet with how, culture progresses and we learn more. And you need to not drag your feet so much because it's affecting a lot of people in a negative way.
Can you take us inside the process that you had creatively around creating the George Michael tribute Freedom?
Sure. Yeah. I worked with an arranger producer, Phil Lawrence, his right hand guy, Davey, as well. And Phil, he's part of Bruno Mars's band. He was part of the producer and arranger for Bruno's 24 Karat Magic album, which was amazing. And someone I work with connected me with him, and Phil was great to work with. He gets the soul that needed to go into the song. Phil's siblings, his brothers and sisters, even sang the background vocals on the track because they all grew up in church singing. And he's like, I'm going to ask my siblings to sing on this, and they sound incredible. They sound amazing. And at first, the song was going to be like a dance, like almost like disco-y or something, like just faster tempo, and it was going to be for to be played at clubs. But then we decided to take a step back and say, you know what, let's just keep it more organic. And so we did. And I really liked an MTV Unplugged performance that George Michael did with a choir. They were in a circle performing around like a microphone or something, or a few microphones. And it was just George vibing and like guiding the circle in the song. And I thought that is so cool. I want that energy in my version. So just paying tribute to George with a stellar live performance that he did of the song.
It's awesome. That's great. In closing, your American Idol experience, obviously, it was a, critical part of your life, and with that came your connection with Paula Abdul, and she was is a great friend and an ally. Talk about what Paula means to you, how special she is, and also maybe shout out some of your other allies that have really been in your corner, David.
Yeah, Paula, I mean, she received a straight up ally award last year, which I presented to her and got to do a tribute to her. I did a medley of her songs. They asked me to do one song and I was like, you know what, Paula, she deserves more than just one song. I want to pay tribute for the legacy that she's left. She's had multiple number one hits. She sold tens of millions of albums, is one of the most legendary choreographers there are, choreographing some of the most epic Janet dances, who's another person known for dancing, but like Paula choreographed a lot of those epic moves that Janet did. And Paula speaking out for the queer community during the time when everyone was afraid, around that time that freedom came out. Paula was an ally, spoke to in support for AIDS victims and for the queer community in a time when people were afraid to even talk about it and mention it. And to then have her as one of my judges during my season of American Idol, Simon and Randy and Paula, they're all special in their own way, but Paula was the one who would come up after nearly every week after the performances and come and connect with us, give us a hug, let us know that she understood the pressure we were under, that we were doing a good job, and that we could get through it. Simon definitely wasn't doing that. It was Paula who always been compassionate, reaching out. She's been supportive both before I came out and since I've come out. So it was really special to get to kind of thank her in return last year. And to the other allies, yeah, there have been some great allies. My fellow American Idol alumni, David Cook, Brooke White, who she's Mormon and she grew up Mormon, but she's always been more progressive in the way she looks at things. She's always said, I don't know why, she's like, I want to challenge these things and how queer people are perceived and stuff. And she's always been in my corner. Jordan Sparks, Ramiel Malubai, Adore Delano have all been amazing people who've it's been really nice to know I've had people who supported me even when I was a Mormon and who now support me after my journey being a Mormon and after coming out as queer. So, and some of my fellow queer friends who've taught me that it's okay. Because I thought if I come out as queer, I'm going to be this dangerous person. I don't know. I didn't know how. That's what I was told. So that's what I believed. So for my friends like Scott Hoying from Pentatonics and his husband Mark have been great. My friend Kevin McHale as well. Just people to get to talk to and realize, oh, you can still be good. Yeah, I don't know what I perceived before, but it's just, you're not around it. You're told to stay away from it, so you have no real idea of what queer people actually are like. You're always encouraged to stay away from them. At least I was. So to not be afraid of them anymore, to have friends and just connect with them. And, we have a shared lived experience where we were afraid of ourselves when we were kids. And then we have to reach a point where it's like, what, I can't be afraid of myself anymore. I have to just accept who I am. And the process of recreating your identity and yourself and getting to know who you really are after hiding from it yourself has been an interesting process. But I'm grateful for my friends who've been there with me and my fans who've supported me both as a super Mormon and as now after that life. It's like two lives, and people are supporting both of my lives.
And you know what? You're just beginning.
Thank you.
You're just beginning. And I salute you with your tribute to George and freedom. And I salute you for your bravery.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Buzz.
Thanks for being on Taking a Walk, David.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Taking a Walk podcast. Share this and other episodes with your friends and follow us so you never miss an episode. Taking a Walk is available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.